Today, NCAA champion swimmer Riley Gaines is joining us. Riley recently made headlines again after she gave a speech at San Francisco State University on the rights of female athletes. She was physically assaulted, yes, physically assaulted, and then barricaded in a room, unable to leave for 3 hours due to the angry protesters. Riley is a very courageous young woman. You'll want to meet her and hear her story today. Stay with us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Hi, moms. I'm Debbie Carlitis, your host, and I'm so glad that you're joining us again this week. Right here at the top of the show, we always want to invite you to like and to subscribe to our podcast. We also ask that you share this with all your mama friends in your circle because we always have such great information and interesting guests on our show. We also here at the beginning of the show want to invite you personally, mom, to join us here at the Moms for America movement. We are moms uniting all across the country to fight for our faith, our families, freedom, and the Constitution. So please check us out at momsforamerica.us and join the movement here, moms. Alrighty, on to today's show. Well, today's show is the second of 3 programs in our series from CPAC 2023. We had a blast there last month, and today we are featuring Riley Gaines Barker. Now, Riley was recently the victim of a physical assault when at least one protester hit her twice after she gave a speech on women's rights. Unbelievable. She addressed the rights of female athletes not having to compete against biological males. Makes sense, right? Well, not to this angry mob. Here is a video clip of the mob actually encountering Riley at San Francisco State University.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Yeah, you transphobia. I see you. Trans rights are human rights. 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 You crying?
Very difficult to watch, right? Very, very upsetting. Well, after the event, believe it or not, the university applauded the peaceful protesters. Yep, that's what they're calling them. And that's where we are today. No praise for the speaker who endured the heinous treatment and physical assault. Only applause for the reprehensible behavior of the mob. Well, Riley is no shrinking violet, that's for sure. She's been a competitor her entire life, and she is going to continue this fight. In fact, she plans legal action against the university for failing to act during the violent protest. I reached out to Riley the next day. I texted her and I said, Riley, we are behind you. We support you and we value all that you are doing to protect women's rights. She texted me back. She wanted me to say thank you to everyone. She is overwhelmed by the support and she appreciates it so much. She's doing well. And she wanted me to let you know that she is going to keep speaking the truth. Good job, Riley. All right. Well, today we are bringing you the conversation that I had with Riley from CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference that was held in March. And in case you are not familiar with her story, let me tell you about Riley real quickly. Riley is a 12-time NCAA All-American champion swimmer. Yes, very impressive. In her senior year at the University of Kentucky, Riley was set to be ranked either number 1 or number 2 in the nation. Then, lo and behold, an unknown swimmer appeared in first place. Lia Thomas, formerly Will Thomas, entered the female competition. With his male-born strength and physique, Will, took the number 1 spot among the female competitors. The female athletes who were upset were told that they were wrong. But no, Riley refused to stay silent. She spoke up, and she continues to speak up today. She says that allowing male-bodied athletes to participate in women's competitions will absolutely destroy the integrity of women's sports and leave women vulnerable. Here's my conversation with Riley. So we are thrilled to be talking with Riley. She has such a powerful story. Can't wait to get into it. Thanks, Riley, for coming by.
Of course. Thank you, guys. I just love what you guys do, what you stand for. I think it's so crucial that moms,
Yes,
the parents,
the mamas,
they get involved, because these are the women who are going to cause the uproar that will make changes. So thank you, guys.
And we are causing a good uproar, I say.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if we don't stand up and support each other, it's over.
It's a necessary uproar. Absolutely.
All right, Riley. Our moms, I know once we start putting 2 and 2 together here, they're going to be like, wow, I know your story. Because we were just talking about this, baptism by fire.
Absolutely.
You took a stand. You had a career, you had a passion, you had a love for a sport, and all of a sudden you had to make some clear decisions.
Right.
So at the beginning of the interview, I want to ask you personally, why were you the only one that stood up? And did you find that you just had to? Nobody else was willing to come alongside you?
Yeah, you know what? That is truthfully how I felt. Because if I'm being totally honest, and I'm ashamed to say it, I was waiting for someone else. I was waiting for a coach or someone
Right.
within the NCAA or someone who was supposed to be protecting
Someone
us.
in the administration. So yeah, somebody.
I was waiting for someone to stick up for us, but then it kind of hit me that if we as female athletes aren't even willing to stick up for ourselves, how can we expect someone else to stick up for us?
Right.
This is an issue that we have to use our voices on, and so it kind of hit me that the denial of basic truth,
Right.
the sheer essence of humanity, man and woman.
Right.
If people aren't even willing to acknowledge that men and women, yes, of course, we should be equal, but we're not the same.
We're not the
We're
same.
different.
Yes.
And if people can't acknowledge that without immediately being called transphobic, a bigot, hateful, we have a much bigger problem in this society than just fairness
Right.
in women's sports. And so I decided to use my voice to stand firm in truth, honestly.
Well, it's been quite a journey for you, exposing the truth, standing up for women's rights. But before we go to where we are and that full story, at what age did you know you wanted to become a swimmer? I mean, was this a lifelong dream?
Lifelong. I started swimming at the age of 4. Just the summer swim, the basic, like a lot of kids do. But by the age of 8, I started swimming year-round. So this meant that in 2nd grade, you're swimming 2 hours every single day, and it really only gets harder from there. So by the time you get to middle school and high school, you're swimming before school. You go to school, you come to the car after school, you shovel your food down, you go back to practice, you drive home, you ice your shoulders because they're tired, you eat your dinner, you do your homework, you go to bed, and you wake up and you do it all again the next day. And at the collegiate level, from my experience, we were in the water 6 hours every day. So it's impossible to put into words the amount of time and the dedication and the sacrifices that you make when you're dedicated to being successful at the elite level.
Oh, I can't even imagine, because we know athletes, they give it their all.
Absolutely.
It is such a passion. So now your dream, your accolades are amazing. You want to talk about a champ of all champs.
Thank you.
Now you get a chance to swim. You're
Yes.
pursuing your dreams, and were you notified about Thomas going to be in the race, or did you just show up?
Well,
How did this work out?
so I'll take you back a little bit. My college experience was nothing short of bizarre anyways, because we dealt with COVID. And so my sophomore year, my NCAA championships were taken from us because COVID. And so that was one NCAAs we were robbed of. So finally, we get back to school. We're ready to go. My senior year, I was ready to win a national title, which would mean becoming the fastest woman in the country in my event. And so I was on track to do so. I was ranked third in the nation behind one amazing female athlete who I knew very well because, like most top-tier athletes, you know each other,
Sure.
Regardless of where you compete. But the person who was ranked first, I'd never heard of before, which was very weird because this was a person ranked first in various events by multiple seconds, ranging from the 100 freestyle, which is a sprint, all the way to the mile, which is, of course, long distance. And so think of this like your runners. You don't have your best 200-meter runner be your best marathoner, but that's what Lia Thomas was to us in swimming. So that was a red flag. Red flag, I'd never heard of Lia Thomas.
Like, where is this person coming from?
From University
Right.
of Pennsylvania that doesn't historically produce fast swimmers.
Okay.
And so it wasn't until a couple days later after these nation-leading times were posted that an article was posted disclosing that Lia Thomas was formerly Will Thomas and swam 3 years on the men's side at UPenn. So then I was able to look up who Will Thomas was and see that this was a swimmer who at best was ranked 462nd among the men.
Wow.
I thought the NCAA would see this, see that it's wrong, see that it's unfair, but that is not what we saw. 3 weeks before our NCAA championships, they announced that Lia Thomas would in fact be competing against the women.
So everyone has to show up and compete. What, 6'4",
Yeah, 6'4".
biological male?
Yes.
Now competing against all the women, and they're expected to be able to compete.
Right.
What a joke.
It felt like a joke, and
Yeah.
that truthfully is actually exactly how it felt. Is it felt like we were being mocked.
Right.
What we had dedicated our lives to, it was
Ugh.
being mocked by a mediocre male. We had to validate his identity, his
Right.
perception of himself at the expense of our own.
Right.
Our own fairness, our own safety, our own privacy,
Right.
our own mental health.
Right.
We were expected and told we had to accept this person in our sports and in our changing spaces.
Okay. Changing spaces I want to talk about, but you were told to accept this, and did everyone just accept it? Or what was the rumblings like? I can't believe the conversations were like, hey, no problem. Everybody was
no,
like,
it
"What?"
wasn't. It's impossible to speak for everyone, but I can wholeheartedly attest to the grumbles of anger and frustration on the pool deck from these girls.
100%.
I can wholeheartedly attest to the extreme discomfort in the locker room. I can wholeheartedly attest to the tears from these girls who placed 9th and 17th, who missed out on being named an All-American by one place. They were displaced by, of course, a male. These women were not okay with this.
No, they were not.
But we, at the time, we didn't know who to go to.
Right.
This organization, who again was supposed to be protecting us, turned their back on us.
Sure did.
So who did we talk to?
Right.
What could our parents do? Our parents couldn't do anything. Our coaches are terrified to speak out because they want to keep their jobs.
Right.
And
you
so it
can't
just felt like stalemate.
And you really can't speak up because then you immediately become a hateful, bigot person.
Absolutely. And we can get into this a little later as well, but some of the girls who did try to speak up, the silencing that they dealt with, the suppression of their voice from their universities and from the NCAA, truthfully, it could be worse than the whole fairness in sports issue. It turned into a freedom of speech issue,
Sure
which
did.
is scary.
That is scary.
When you have these institutions doing everything in their power to silence you and your feelings, that's a really big problem.
It's ultimate bullying.
Absolutely.
And-
Bullying is exactly what it is.
So you talked about uncomfortable and the changing space, because not only competing against them, whole big issue, now you have to pretend that you do not have a biological male in the changing a swimming suit. We all know what it's like to change a swimsuit.
It's uncomfortable to...
I mean, we're going down to our nothings.
Right. Well, and let me set the scene of a swimming locker room for you. Not a place of modesty.
No.
But it's almost in a way you've become comfortable being vulnerable in that space growing up, because growing up a swimmer, which we all have, in that environment, you're used to it in a sense. But I can't tell you the subconscious innate feeling of discomfort when a male walks in. A male you had no idea. The NCAA didn't even forewarn us that we would be sharing this space. And so when you're in there changing, you're talking to your friends, you're putting your suit on, these suits, again, that are tiny, that take 15 minutes
Right.
to tuck yourself into.
Right. Competitive swimwear. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
whole, it's just, we all know what it would be like to be somewhere putting on something like this in front of a male.
Right. And so, again, we were not forewarned. We did not give our consent. They did not ask our consent. And so I immediately left the locker room, and I went straight up to an NCAA official and I said, hey, what are the guidelines
Right.
that allowed this to happen?
Right.
And he said, oh, well, we got around this by making the locker rooms unisex. So this meant that any man could have walked into our locker room, and they didn't even tell us of this arrangement. They never said to us, hey, we made the locker rooms unisex if you want to find another arrangement, but this is how we have to handle this. The bare minimum. And they didn't do that.
No, very violating, very, I mean, I can't,
Violating's a perfect word.
I don't even know. It's almost so shocking. Like you said, when we talk about this, it's so obvious and it's so weird.
Right. Well, just a year ago, this would have been considered
harassment.
indecent exposure,
Right.
voyeurism,
Sexual
harassment.
Yes.
And this would have been a person who would immediately be arrested, but now they're not arrested. They're not
celebrated.
Told. They're celebrated. It's encouraged to do what they're doing. And the NCAA perpetrated this.
So now you have to deal with it. You have to either deal with it or don't
Right.
or don't compete.
Right. Absolutely. And that's kind of what we were faced with. And looking back now,
Would you have done things differently or no?
I don't know if I would have done things differently, because truthfully how it all worked out in terms of the tie and the trophy, how that played out, it was perfect display to show how wrong this is. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking at this as something optimistic, truly. This is the conversation that needs to be had. I'm not someone who's scared to have it. And I think God was working through this whole...
He did. He works it all out for good. I know
he
he
works
does.
in mysterious ways, and my life has changed. I was supposed to be in dental school this year, and so the path and the plan that I thought I had, I'm not pursuing right now. I'm set to go to dental school in the fall, but even now, I don't know what I should do, and I'm letting God kind of take that control. And so I don't know if I would do things differently, but I do want to say the most powerful way to make change is, of course, to not swim, to not compete. But it's so hard to orchestrate that amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
Because no girl who's worked again their whole lives to get to that point, they don't want to give up their chance at a national title. They don't want to not compete. But that's the sacrifices that are going to have to be made to make changes. Again, changes are made at through legislature, but this is a more powerful, impactful way to really make changes.
Well, you went forward. You went through the journey.
Yes.
And then I think that's what's so amazing about it is that you didn't lay in the sidelines. You swam upstream.
Absolutely.
Not to give you a pun here, but you really did. You spoke out. You stood up. How are you now with all this? I mean, you talk about where God's brought you. Look at the doors. You become a spokesperson. God's opened up doors for you to champion for women.
Absolutely. And I think sitting back now, I realize the bigger picture. It's not just sports that are under attack.
Yes, that's
right.
right.
It is the whole. It seems as if the left is truthfully trying to erase women, erase gender, erase sex altogether.
Right.
They want to blur that line. There's ulterior motives here. Look at what's happening in prisons, where they're now allowing men who are convicted of terrible, heinous things like rape and kidnap and awful things. They're now allowing them into women's prisons, where they are impregnating women. It's happening in New Jersey, Ohio, Kansas, of course, California. California, after it happened, they saw a successful case. Not next week, over 200 applicants, males, applied to be in women's prisons.
Right.
And so we're opening doors for people to walk in and take advantage of the system that's already failing.
Right.
The system that's already failing women. But there are pervs, there are creeps who will see that all they have to do is say, I identify as a woman, to get in a woman's locker room, and they will take advantage of that.
Right. They see this as an opportunity for themselves.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's very strategic on their part. And it's unfortunate that we're supporting you know, this agenda. How bad was the backlash when you did speak up? I mean, now you look very settled. I mean, beautiful in person, mamas. I
Aw.
mean, what a great role model. But I mean, the persecution had to be pretty tough.
You know, I think the hardest thing for me to hear, truthfully, of all the backlash I've gotten is, you know, you're not a Christian. You say you're a Christian, but our God loves all. I struggled with that initially because before anything, I want to live a Christ-like life. And so when people would say our God wouldn't do this, that was hard for me to hear because I struggled with knowing, you know, am I doing the right thing? Which now I understand. Of course, we have a God of love, but we also have a God who hates sin and a God who created man and woman, and he doesn't make mistakes. But really, other than that, the backlash I get is all personal attacks. It's maybe you should have just swam faster. You're slow. Maybe you should have trained harder and you would have won. Stop whining. Or you're ugly. Or you're transphobic. Or your hair is extensions, which it's not. So they're just silly personal attacks that have no weight on me. I realize now that these personal attacks that people are saying about me, of course, on the internet. I've truthfully never met anyone in real life other than protesters at events, but no one in my daily life have I met that disagrees with me.
Right.
No one. And so I realize these people saying these things on social media about me, it speaks more about them than it does about me. I'm secure enough in my stance. I know my convictions. I know my heart. And I know what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm not trying to ban trans people from competing in sports. I believe everyone has a place to compete somewhere. It's just competing where is fairly. That's the fundamental piece of sports.
Yes.
So
where
I know
is fair.
myself.
Yeah, and I've heard you say that quote exactly. Women deserve a fair competition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no equity, there's no fairness, there's no sportsmanship, there's no opportunities for women to succeed at an elite level without sex-based categories. And we deserve that. We're entitled to that.
And we've come a long way, and women have the right to compete. I mean, these are dreams. This was a childhood dream that all of a sudden can be taken away or stolen. And again, it's not like everyone can't compete in their own arena, but be in an arena that's fair.
Absolutely. It's that simple.
So, redefining women, the importance of knowing what a woman really is.
Yes.
This is really what it all comes down to, because we just talked about the fact this is bigger than women's sports.
Absolutely.
This is affecting women all across the country in all different arenas, like you're saying. So the fact that we have to define what a woman really is, it's shocking, but it's necessary.
It's definitely necessary. I hate having to add the term biological woman when I'm talking about myself or a cisgender woman. Oh, I hate that. But it is, in a way, necessary. But to define a woman, how sad we have a sitting Supreme Court justice who refused to do so. It's the most, like I said at the beginning of this interview, it's the most basic of truths. We know what a man is, we know what a woman is, we know what a male and a female are. And so the definition of a woman is an adult human female. And then we can further define female as someone who has the capabilities to produce ova or eggs. It is not that hard chromosomally.
It is not that hard to
think
understand.
of this, it's XX versus XY. Of course, people will bring up the topic, what about intersex? Intersex is not a third sex. It is a combination of the two, and it is 100% different than being transgender.
Yes. What do you say to the moms? Their daughters may be competing. What do we do as moms with this situation?
You know, as moms, I just recently got married, and I can only thank you, and I can only hope one day that I get to bring a daughter of my own into the world. And truthfully, that is why I'm fighting this. I can't imagine having a daughter and not using this time, my platform, my voice, to fight for her rights. Sports are more than just winning. Sports, the opportunities that sports have given me, it's given me the leadership and the confidence and the security to sit right here and do exactly what I'm doing. It's monumental. Women deserve that. We deserve the chance to have the same opportunities that I had, the same opportunities that my grandparents fought for. We deserve that. And moms, your daughters, they don't have a voice yet. They don't yet understand the implications that this has on their future. So they need you. And again, this is bigger than sports. All of this stuff that's being pushed to children, it's twisted, it's sad, but they need someone to stick up for them because there are so many who are trying to pull them under.
Yeah.
So the moms, they're crucial. I can't even tell you the support that I've had from my parents.
Yes.
It's been foundational for myself, and I truly hope every mom can see how important it is to stick up for your children.
All right. Well, good. Last question. I heard President Trump told you that he could maybe beat you in the pool.
That might disprove my theory of the biological advantages, because I could definitely kick his butt. But
very funny.
Hilarious, yes.
Well, thank you so much. God bless your endeavors, and keep fighting the fight, because we need women like you fighting for women to be able to be women.
Of course. Seems simple, bare minimum.
Yes. All right.
But
thank you.
Well, in our interview, Riley mentioned a tie and a trophy, and it's true. Despite the vast difference in size and strength, Riley did tie with Lia Thomas, believe it or not, in the 200-meter freestyle. This event in itself became so controversial. Well, Riley explained to me what happened when we spoke with her at CPAC at the women's breakfast that we sponsored.
So my story that kind of compelled me and thrusted me into the position to take a stance in truth is when Lia Thomas and we raced in the 200-yard freestyle, which ultimately, and now looking back, I see how God was moving through this whole situation, because it couldn't have played out more perfectly, we'll say. But Thomas and we tied.
A 6'4" biological male. This girl gave him a run for his money.
So we tied, so this meant that we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. So we both went like a minute, 43 seconds, 0.52 or whatever it was. And so we go behind the awards podium where they hand you a trophy and you get named an All-American. And so the NCAA official looks at myself and Thomas, we're this far apart, and he says, "Great job, you guys tied. Lia, you get the trophy."
Lia, you get the trophy.
And so I questioned this official. I was like, okay, I know we tied. I know there's one trophy, but why are you adamant on giving this trophy to Lia? And he says, well, for photo purposes, Lia has to have the trophy. You can pose with this one, but you have to give it back. You go home empty-handed. Lia gets the trophy. And so that's truthfully... Well,
how you were treated.
Think of Title IX and everything, all of the benefits of Title IX. We have people in this same lifetime. I'm sure there are some people in this room who saw the benefits of what Title IX has given us. And now in their same lifetime, they're seeing that
stripped away,
being taken away. And so the left likes to look at this as if it's progressive. We're moving forward, but it couldn't be more the opposite. We're going 50 years back in time.
We sure are going back in time. We have made such great strides as women to be who we are and to compete and to have a voice. And for someone to say, you don't matter, take home, the dummy trophy, sorry, see you. Somebody that's been competing since 4 to be a champion swimmer, not acceptable. We're not putting up with it. Thank you for not putting up for it.
Thank you.
Because it's the athletes, right? Speaking up that are going to make the big difference and saying, no, I am not going to let this happen. And I know, you just want to give her an applause, don't you?
Thank you. That's so sweet. Aww.
I know, girl. See all these women that are with you? So when you go across the country, you take all these faces with you.
Well, these are the people who can make the change.
Right.
These moms, you guys possess the power. You possess the power, of course, over your children, and that is the most liberating thing. You guys have the ability to make these changes. Of course, legislature is great and getting involved in that way, but just using your voice, showing that the true majority of this country, and I truthfully believe this, the true majority of this country, we're sane. We know that men and women are different. We know that kindergartners shouldn't be taught things about their sexuality. They should be learning their colors and ABCs and how to read them right.
Right.
But you guys have the power to change this. And speaking from my own experience, I know how the media and how large institutions and especially universities, they want to silence you, but don't let them do that. Do not give them the power to do that, because that's when, as a society, we are going downhill, and I see it happening, and it's happening at an alarming rate.
We're not going to let the progressives control the message anymore. We're going to let the moms, we're going to let the women, we're going to let the patriots control the message, because we are the freedom fighters. Amen.
Isn't Riley a great role model for us and our daughters? Think about this. This woman is just 23 years old. What a champion. I'm so impressed with her tenacity and true courage. She's been a fighter in the swimming pool from an early age, and these protesters are not going to silence her. Freedom of speech is for everyone, not just for the trans community. Today, Riley continues the fight as a spokeswoman for the Independent Women's Forum. Good luck, Riley. All right, well, our final program from CPAC will be next week when we talk with Dr. Penn Carson and Representative Lauren Boebert. It's going to be another great discussion with some incredible leaders that are really making a great impact all over the country. We love Dr. Carson and we love Lauren Boebert. She's amazing. Also, I never want to leave you without encouraging you to visit our website at momsforamerica.us. Again, check out all of our events, our programs, our amazing resources. They are all there on our website. When you're on our website, I always say, listen, make sure you sign up for our newsletter, because that's how we communicate with you every week about what we're doing, what programs we're offering, and just kind of stay connected with you through our newsletter at momsforamerica.us. I also want to encourage you to check out our signature program, which is the Cottage Meetings. It's 12 lessons that will absolutely inspire and educate you about America's amazing heritage, so you can share those principles of liberty in your home and in your community. That's how we make a difference, moms. We share those in our home, and we share those principles of liberty and freedom in our community. This program, along with many of our other programs on our website, will help impact you and your family in a very, very powerful way. We always say this every week, right? It's from public policy to Congress. It's from the kitchen table to the school board. That's how we make a difference in our community and in our home. Also, if you have an idea or a topic, would you please email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would love to hear from you and any suggestions or topics that you may have. Again, that is podcast@momsforamerica.net. All right, Mama, every week we say this: liberty begins at home, and that you moms, you are truly the heartbeat of America, and you are truly the heartbeat of your home. That's why this movement is so powerful. It's because of moms just like you. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and see you next week for another exciting, informative special with our last special from CPAC with Dr. Ben Carson and Representative Lauren Boebert. It's going to be awesome. And moms, don't forget, share this with your mama friends. I'll see you next week, and let's keep changing our world one home at a time. Talk to you soon.